Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How you doing?
Good. I had a productive evening. I got some Halloween decorations up in the yard.
Oh, right on. I can't say we've done that yet, but we typically wait till after Thanksgiving, so we'll probably be doing that pretty soon.
It's so much nicer putting them out when like the ground's not frozen and you're not freezing in general. So I was able to knock that off tonight. So I feel accomplished even before we get to recording the podcast.
Right on. Well, I had a bit of a lazy evening, was watching the mayoral debate that actually occurred last night. But yeah, we kind of settled in, had some popcorn, and watched those five people duke it out. Good times, but I'm excited to kind of shift focus and talk about Calgary soccer with you.
For sure. And if you are a new listener to our podcast, Scott, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about?
So we cover all levels of soccer in Calgary. We talk about the city's two professional teams, those being Cavalry FC and the Calgary Wild. We also talk a lot about high-level amateur and post-secondary soccer teams from Calgary, whether that be the University of Calgary, SAIT, or Mount Royal University. And we also just try to highlight any kind of cool stories that we discover that have to do with players or teams from the Calgary area.
Yeah, and this week we're going to preview the big matchup on Friday evening, Cavalry against Forge. The Calgary Wild are also playing this weekend at home at McMahon against Halifax Tides. We'll talk about that game. There's also some post-secondary matches to talk about, in particular, the women's edition of the Crowchild Classic. And we have an interview this week. Scott, who's our interview with?
Earlier this week, you and I spoke for the first time with Eryk Kobza, who plays for Cavalry FC and used to play for the University of Calgary Dinos. We had a good chat with him about his professional career and his two recent goals for the Cavs, which were his first professional goals in 2 years.
Good chat. And we'll have a couple other additional stories. Calgary Blizzard lifted another national trophy the past weekend, and a Calgarian is going to the U17 World Cup. So we'll talk about all those topics in a bit, but let's start off with Cavalry FC.
Hi, I'm Eryk Kobza. Welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So we've got a Friday Night Lights matchup between Cavalry and Forge. Second time that Forge has come to Spruce Meadows this season. Forge is, of course, at the top of the table, having a really, really strong season. They've only lost 2 games in 2025. But of course, one of those games was against Cavalry, the last time that Forge came to Spruce Meadows. So personally, Jason, I can't wait for this match. I think it's one of the games that I circle on the calendar every season. And I don't mind a little bit of Friday Night Lights.
Nice to have an evening game every now and then. We've had very few of them this year. I think the Can Champ game was in the evening, and I think the first match of the season was in the evening, but that's pretty much it. With Forge, they've having a great year, although it seems like maybe they've been a little bit less than perfect the last little while here. They have dropped a couple points here and there, but, overall, though, when these two teams play each other, it's always interesting.
Always. There's always fireworks. It's always a good game between two very talented teams. It's the exact kind of contest that you want to showcase the CPL. And that's why I love that this is one of those games that's going to be on TSN. But yeah, looking at the table, Forge, they were chasing an unbeaten season for a very long time. I think it was only after like 20 or 21 games into the campaign that they finally lost. And it was Cavalry, right, that ended that streak with a pretty emphatic performance just a month or so ago. But Cavalry coming in with a couple of recent defeats and dropped points, especially on the road. But you have to assume that they're going to pick up their performance at home, as they so often do.
Yeah, I think that even in some of the pregame talk, the Cavs have been talking about having the home field advantage, and it is definitely helpful. You know what I really enjoy about these matches? I'm not a great tactician, but Bobby Smirnionis and Tommy Wheeldon Jr. have faced each other so many times. You would think that they know all of their tendencies and all the little tricks that they have. And now that they faced each other so many times, I think it's a really interesting challenge. That how can you, being Tommy Wheeldon Jr., come up with something unique, like innovative, that Bobby Smirnionis won't have seen or thought of before, that or seen you do? I think it's a really interesting chess match that way.
Absolutely. I think they've played each other 30 plus times at this point. And yeah, it's been the same two coaches for every one of those games. It's pretty remarkable, right? They're the only two head coaches still in the CPL from the inaugural season who've been with the same team ever since it started, right? So always good to see how they try to outcoach each other in this one. I think it's a challenge for Tommy Wheeldon Jr. this week, particularly because of the number of players who are out, particularly for defensive midfield.
Right now, we know for sure that there are 3 players away on international duty. They're all on the other side of the world. We've got Shamit Shom playing for Bangladesh, Mikhail Gerasimenkov playing for Moldova, and Ali Musi playing for Somalia. And we don't know the status of Diego Gutierrez. He apparently is relatively close to returning from injury, but I'm not sure exactly what that means at this point, how likely he could play or play 90 minutes. And Michael Baldissimo got 2 yellows in that last match and got a red as a result. So I would presume that means he's going to be out of action this week with the suspension. So that's 5 players down potentially.
Yeah, and 3 of them playing all defensive midfield. I'm not sure did Cavalry maybe appeal Baldissimo's sending off last week? I haven't heard that they've done that, but I know that has been a thing in the CPL in the past, and sometimes those sending offs have been rescinded.
If it's happened, I haven't seen it. So if Gutierrez isn't good to go, I think right now it's pretty safe to assume our guest this week is pretty likely to be in the starting 11 playing defensive midfield.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. We know that Eryk Kobza does deputize as a defensive midfielder when he's not playing center back. And as we ask him in our interview, I mean, do you like playing central midfield? He definitely likes it. And he brings a different set of strengths to that position. But I don't know who will be lining up next to him if those other 3 players we've mentioned aren't all available. I know Sergio Camargo has dropped a bit deeper and played as a 6 this season, and I think he actually did really well at that. But that would be a new partnership, I believe, right? Kobza and Camargo, defensive midfield together. Or maybe we'll just see different lineup from Cavalry. I think they do like to play a 4-2-3-1 when they face Forge. That is how they lined up on August 30th when they won 4-1. But maybe we'll see a different lineup from Cavalry to compensate for the loss of those players.
It is a bit of a thin lineup this week. I counted, and they've got, if Gutierrez isn't playing, I believe that means they're going to have 19 players available. So they should have enough to fill the bench, but the options are maybe a little bit more limited than they are in a typical week.
So I guess now's a good time to run our interview with Eryk Kobza because we do ask him about this upcoming game. So yeah, let's listen to what Eryk has to say about this game as well as other questions we asked him. I'd like to welcome Eryk Kobza to the podcast. Eryk is a member of Cavalry FC, and he used to be the captain for the University of Calgary Dinos. He's originally from North Vancouver, I believe, but has been in Calgary for quite some time now. Eryk, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So I mentioned the 2 teams in Calgary that you've played for, those being, of course, Cavalry and the Dinos. But can you talk a little bit about your upbringing on the West Coast and how you ended up landing in Calgary for your post-secondary career?
Well, it's been a while now, but yeah, I grew up in the West Coast in North Vancouver, played local football, and then I got scouted by the Whitecaps Academy, ended up being there for 6 years, so quite a long time. And I was thinking about maybe pursuing some things abroad, and I've went on a few trials. Nothing really panned out. I had a good contact with Brendan O'Connell, who brought me into the University of Calgary. Started my first year there, did really well. We went to nationals as a team, and then COVID hit. University season was kind of cut short or not really existent. So I decided to go play in Poland. I have a Polish passport, so I decided that be a good experience for me. Ended up being really tough, especially with COVID. But then, yeah, I came back, finished my degree, continued to play in U Sports, and then in my final year, I got drafted by Cavs, and now I've been here. This is my third year with Cavs, so yeah, it's been quite a while. Enjoyable journey, 2 trophies in the last 2 years, so lots of success, and obviously we're itching for a bit more this year.
When you were going through the recap there, you mentioned the year in Poland. And actually, that was the next question we wanted to ask, because we were aware that you did that year in Poland. But I'm not sure if we've ever really heard you talk too much about what the experience was like. And you played for a couple different teams in I think it was the third and fourth level. You want to just tell us a little bit about that experience? I guess, there was the COVID aspect of it, but just in general, like what it was like to play there.
Yeah, so the language is obviously different. I do speak fluently Polish, but it wasn't my second nature to, I guess, communicate on the field in a different language. The locker room and the environment, obviously all that's when you go into a new country, different environment, although you might know the language, that's a learning curve. I just personally thought that it would be a good opportunity for me to test myself abroad, obviously in a different environment, obviously gain a lot of valuable experience, whether it's different tactics, playing under different coaches with different philosophies, getting myself incorporated in a different locker room, all those skills that I think have helped me to where I am now. Yeah, but especially COVID, very difficult. It was train, go home, sleep, eat, and repeat. Not much social interaction, which I think was a bit frustrating and definitely made my experience maybe not as pleasant. But yeah, I wouldn't change it.
Now, Eryk, you mentioned, third season with Cavalry in the CPL. You've got to lift some trophies, as you mentioned, got to play against some pretty big clubs in the CONCACAF Champions League or Champions Cup. How do you feel that playing at this level has helped you grow as a player compared to, say, when you were with the Dinos not too long ago?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this many times. The CPL is a good stepping stone for players in Canada. Before the CPL, there was a massive jump, whether you want to go to Europe or MLS, and it seemed like there wasn't a stepping stone in between. So I think the CPL is great for that. It gives players a platform like myself. When I was younger, I was a late developer, so I wasn't in the academy. I didn't get up to that first team level because I was a late bloomer. So it's another route that I took through university and then to play in the CPL. All the experiences I think in the last couple of years, especially winning the Shield in 2023 and obviously the Cup last year, gives you opportunities to play in CONCACAF Champions Cup. These are massive tournaments. You can compare them, probably not the quality the same way, but this is the comparison to the UEFA Champions League in Europe. So you're playing against the best of the best. And when you're a competitor and want to compete for trophies, and like Cavalry is, we always want to compete for trophies and win every game that we play in. Those are the kind of games you want to be a part of and the ones that you experience. I think we took massive strides this year, taking a 2-1 win, I say at home, but obviously in Victoria against Pumas. Again, never been done before by a CPL team to beat a Liga MX side. But those are the kinds of things that will show that the league's developing, players are getting better, and we can compete at that high level.
Like thus far, how would you say the season's been going for yourself? Like how would you rate your performance so far this year?
Personally or as a collective?
Yeah, personally.
Personally, it's been, I'd say, looking back my 3 years, it's been a little up and down, which I think is pretty common it's never steady sailing for anyone. But playing for how much I did my first year, then I had about 4 or 5 small injuries that took me in and out of the team last year. So that was a bit frustrating. And then obviously this year, I think I had a really good start in the Pumas, the 2 games, the home and away. And then I unfortunately fractured my foot, my fifth metatarsal, that kept me away from the game for about 13 or 14 weeks. So that was really frustrating, especially after a good start in CONCACAF. But yeah, I think I've done well to get myself back. And when I was available, I think I got myself back in the team quite quickly, which was one of my big goals: play as much as I can and try and help the team. I think as in my third year, I'm not so much a rookie on the team, where I have, I think, more of a voice to give and kind of lead the culture, I guess, in a way here. Personally, I think I've set myself a few goals of the amount I want to play, the amount of goal contributions I would want to have. I think being able to step into the midfield the last few weeks, that has developed a part of my game that I wasn't expecting. I was from last year, I was expecting to play mostly center back, but I think it's been a valuable experience to be able to play multiple positions at a really high level. It will only make me better.
That blends perfectly into another question we have here for you, which is about your preferred position. Obviously, you have played both center back and defensive midfield this year, and you're known for your versatility. But do you have a preference? I mean, if you got to choose where you're going to play on the pitch, would you have like a position you'd go for?
I don't think so. I think I have qualities that complement both sides. One aspect that I've always been known for is that I'm a good runner. I can get around the pitch quite easily, so that's obviously helpful in the midfield. But I think also my range of passing and my being comfortable in the middle of the pitch makes the transition that I did a couple of years ago towards the back makes that a lot easier. So, I wouldn't say at this point I have a preference. Trying to develop my game in both positions as much as I can. Feel like it'll only help me in the long run.
I think in your first year, you scored a couple goals. And then this year, you've got yourself back onto the score sheet again. Can you talk about that? And also, can you talk about your celebration for the first goal?
Yeah. You got it spot on. 2 years, 2 goals in my first year, and then nothing last year, and then back on the score sheet again this year for 2 goals. It's just something part of my game that I think with my size, I need to be a threat on set pieces, or even when I'm playing midfield, to make the top of the box for cutbacks or whatever. But I think adding goals to your game and assists is a big part of your game, no matter where you are on the pitch. So that's a big goal of mine that I've tried to incorporate into my game. And the celebration for the first one against Halifax when I ran over to the Volkswagen Cruiser, it was just we were reminded as players before the game that it was the Volkswagen match, and there was a little incentive to celebrate with the Volkswagen car. So as soon as I scored it, I didn't. It doesn't happen often. Hopefully, it doesn't in the near future. But yeah, first thought was to run over there, celebrate with the cruiser. Unfortunately, it was locked. So I spoke with Mason about that. So he assured me that next time it would be unlocked.
With having Dan Klomp come back and he's lots of times a focus about, the other teams are maybe focusing on him, like trying to prevent him from getting the header. Like, does that sort of change things for you? Like, how does it work with having like the two of you? You're both big guys who both like to get your heads on the ball. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it yourself. Dan coming back, obviously everyone in the league knows that he's very good on set pieces. He knows the areas to get into, and he finishes them off very well. So, yeah, I've just tried to work off of him, see where he's going. I mean, lately, the first few games that he was back, there were guys double teaming him, so that means someone else is probably in a 1v1 matchup. But yeah, Jay recently he's been on set pieces. From the coaching staff, and he's done a really good job in drawing plays for us up. And it's up to us to execute them. And I think in the last few weeks we've done quite a good job. I think there's a few more that we like tweaks that we can have to be even more efficient in these set pieces. But yeah, with Dan, I just try and play off of him and cover the spaces that he's not in.
We want to ask about this weekend's game. I guess it's a Friday evening game at home against Forge. Always an exciting matchup. You probably faced them several times at this point. I mean, what is it like to take on a rival like that, and does it differ from the preparations for any other opponents?
Yeah, I mean, Forge from the time I've been in the league, Forge and Cavalry have been a staple of a rivalry in this league, and two teams that have obviously a lot of success. So it doesn't really come as a surprise that people think of it as a big game. I think for us players, we try and treat every game as a separate game, and each of them have their own threats that we have to suppress, and then we also have to expose their weaknesses. So as a preparation, I don't think we treat it any different, but I think the coaching staff or whatever the motivation to come up to get up for a game like that, you don't need any motivation for that. Obviously, they've had an unbelievable season. They're on pace to win the Shield again this year, and that's good because it keeps the teams around them and us to keep pushing. We want to compete for trophies, and that's why we're here. Especially at Calgary, that's kind of the standard that have been set for the past few years, and even from year one. So it takes a little motivation to get up for these games. I think it'll be another good battle. There's points to be had, whether them in their 1-2 race or us to secure that third spot. There's points to be played for. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a battle as always, but I thoroughly enjoy them.
You mentioned you've been with Calgary for a few years now, as we know. What about sort of future plans and career goals? Like, you're still 23. I think you're 20. 23. So you've got a long career ahead of you. What are some things like what are some goals in the future for you? Like, what are you looking ahead to?
Yeah, I'm taking it kind of game by game, day by day. I don't love to think about too much in the future. I think when your mind's set day to day in training and then to prepare for each game as it comes, I think that's what puts you in the best mentality to perform at your best. Like you said, I'm young. I've had a number of games here at Cavalry, so I've set myself as a good base as a professional coming out of the U Sports system. So I'm not too sure what's in the cards for the future. I'm excited for what's ahead, and I want to continue to push myself and see what's out there. Eventually, I think I would like to test myself in different environments, but I'll leave that to my game to do the talking and see what the future holds.
Thanks again for coming on our podcast, and we wish you the best of luck both this Friday night and into the future. We'll be watching.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Before we finish off with Calgary FC, I thought maybe we would chat a little bit about the international matches that happened today. That's Thursday, that the 3 Calgary players played in. The first match to talk about, I guess, would be the Bangladesh match with Shamit Shom. They faced Hong Kong and quite a game, 4-3.
Yeah, and Shom scored. He scored a late equalizer in stoppage time, a header off of a set piece, and obviously thought that probably earned the draw for Bangladesh, but Hong Kong marched up the pitch right afterward and scored a very late winner. So yeah, definitely a crazy game. Would have been fun to watch. And very excited to see Shom get on the score sheet, Jason.
Yeah, when we interviewed him back last year, he talked about not having scored and how he wanted to score. So although it's not with Calgary, it's with his country, I'm sure he's pretty excited to score. And I was chatting a little bit with a couple of Bangladesh fans on social media today, and they said that he plays in a much more offensive role with Bangladesh than he does with Cavalry. So it would make sense that he would be more likely to be in a scoring position.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the 6-yard box on attacking corner kicks when Cavalry's playing. But that's where he was, and he was unmarked and managed to get his head on this deflected cross and power it home. So kudos to, former podcast guest Shamit Shom. We're very happy to see that him score, and hopefully it'll translate to a goal for Cavalry.
Mm-hmm. And next one we'll talk about Moldova. They played Romania, and Mikhail Gerasimenkov came on as a substitute in the beginning of the second half and got his first senior cap for Moldova. So congrats. I would say right now that for his career right now, he's had a really good 2025. He started off with the Whitecaps and getting loaned over to Cavalry, which, nobody, I don't think anyone had any really specifically strong expectations with him joining the club, and he's played great. And then he's also played well for his country. He was playing for the U21s, and now he gets his first senior cap. So that's quite a positive progression.
Absolutely. He's having quite the year. Unfortunately, this game did end in a loss for Moldova, a 2-1 win for Romania. Gerasimenkov came on as a sub early in the second half. But yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I mean, someone we hadn't really even heard of a year ago, and he's been a revelation for Cavalry this year. I think every season there's somebody who is a newcomer, but immediately impresses, and he's probably been that player this year, right? Like only 19 or something like that, but plays with the assuredness of someone much older, kind of like Maël Henry, although different position. What a great year it's been for Mikhail Gerasimenkov.
And the third Cavalry player that was in international action was Ali Musi. He was playing for Somalia against Algeria. Algeria won 3-0. I did catch the highlights, and Ali Musi had the best chance of the match. He hit the post from a long-distance strike.
And yeah, I mean, obviously a 3-0 loss, it's disappointing, but look at the team he's playing against, right? Algeria often qualified for the World Cup finals. We've got players like Riyad Mahrez, Rami Ben Sebaini, who I know from watching the Bundesliga. So great opportunity for him to make the pitch in this one. And it's too bad that shot didn't go in.
And all three of those teams will play again on Tuesday this week, and then all those players will be making the long flights back to Calgary.
This is Lydia Bedford, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, we'll quickly talk about the Calgary Wild, Jason. No point to dive too deep into their game this weekend since it doesn't have any like playoff ramifications or standings implications, but it is, a battle between two teams at the bottom of the Northern Super League standings. Calgary will be taking on the Halifax Tides. Kickoff is at Saturday at noon at McMahon Stadium. I'm working this Saturday, so unfortunately won't be able to watch this one. It will be on CBC Gem. Yeah, what do you make of this game? Obviously, it's the second last game of the season. It is against a team that the Wild have had some success against in the past. This could be a really high-scoring fixture.
It could be. And, I think that, it's a team that they definitely have a chance to get 3 points from. But, I'll tell you what I want to see in this match. And this is with all due respect to Steph Bukovic. I want to see one of the other keepers. I want to see how they perform. We saw Jackie Burns play 2 matches quite a while back, and we haven't seen her since. And Sarah Kelty-Dilling, we haven't seen her play at all. So I'm not sure exactly, how it should work out for who should get the minutes. Maybe it's probably more likely to be Jackie Burns. But in my mind, at least, I want to see what one of those other keepers look like, because there's nothing quite like seeing them in a game situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're right in the sense that we haven't seen much of the Wild's goalkeeping roster apart from Steph Bukovic, and I think that's down to how well she has played. Obviously, this is a team that has allowed a lot of goals, but as you and I have talked about quite a bit, a lot of those goals weren't due to the goalkeeping. Bukovic overall had a pretty strong season, and I think she earned that number 1 jersey and the starting position in virtually every game. But yeah, you're right in the sense that this team has at one point had 4 goalkeepers on the roster, and we really haven't gotten to see most of them, to be honest.
Hi, I'm Avril Jameson, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So let's talk about U Sports. And it's Thanksgiving weekend. It's a pretty light schedule in Canada West action this weekend, but there is one match, and it's a biggie.
Yeah, this is a game that a recent guest of ours talked about quite a bit, that being Bella Chirico, the captain of Mount Royal University Cougars women's team. They will be hosting crosstown rivals, the University of Calgary Dinos, 7 p.m. on Friday. So unfortunate that this is the exact same time that Cavalry and Forge are playing each other. I'd be very excited to go to this one. 2 very strong teams this year. Dinos are at the top of the Prairie division, still unbeaten. And the regular season's almost over, but the Cougars have been breathing down their neck for a lot of the campaign and have really shown what they're made of. So there is another battle between these two teams in just a week after this one. But first edition of the Crowchild Classic in 3 years on the women's side.
And the Dinos are in the driver's seat when it comes to first place in the Prairie division. I did the scenarios, and I believe that either a win or a draw clinches them first place. And the Cougars would have to win next week against the Dinos again, I think, in order to get first. So definitely advantage Dinos to get first, but I still think a lot to play for regardless.
Yeah, and let's talk quickly about the national rankings. I think that reflects what you just said. Dinos are currently ranked 4th in Canada, 1 spot up from last week. Mount Royal University is currently ranked 19th in the country. They were last week ranked as high as 15th, but they did drop a few points, which probably factors into that dip.
Since there are no men's matches this weekend for Calgary-based teams, and just the one matchup for the women's team, I did a bit of a deep dive into the stats, and I thought we would do a bit of a recap of how some Calgarians are doing in the Golden Boot race nationally.
Really well, and not just for the Calgary-based teams. Kudos, Jason, for doing this work. But let's highlight some of the local players who have been banging in the goals in 2025. On the women's side, we have Tamara Jurisic from Mount Royal, who is on 9 goals at the moment, which puts her in the top 5 for the national Golden Boot race.
Yeah, and then Brooke Batty from the Calgary Dinos has 7 goals. And then the other player in the top 20 nationally is a freshman.
Yeah, we had her on the podcast this summer, shortly after she'd finished high school. Avril Jameson, who is in her freshman season for SAIT FX. She's on 6 goals, which is super impressive for a first-year player. 20th place in the women's scoring race is Isabella De Palma, who is another University of Calgary Dino. She's on 5 goals at the moment. And then another podcast guest is also on 5 goals.
Yeah, Grace Nassau from the McEwen Griffins also has scored 5 goals this year. So a lot of names in that top 20 list.
And we've talked to a couple of them.
For sure. And on the men's side, Owen Antoniuk from the Calgary Dinos is in 3rd place nationally with 9 goals.
Yeah, it feels like he hasn't scored in a couple of weeks. I might be wrong, but he got off to such a great start in those first 2 weekends of the season and has chipped in a couple of goals since then as well. So doesn't look like he's going to equal Dominic Russo's single season scoring record for the Dinos of 15 in one season, but nonetheless a great return for him and showing his quality after playing several games at the pro level with Cavalry this spring and summer. And then his former Cavalry teammate and now crosstown opponent, Shannon Chanda, is also in the top 10 nationally. In his first season for Mount Royal, he has bagged 7 goals so far.
And I also want to highlight someone that's a little bit lower down on the in the scoring race, Max Peepgrass for Cape Breton and former Cavalry player. He's got 5 goals, which is good for 21st place, but he's notched 5 goals in just 8 games. Because he was still with Cavalry, he had a bit of a late return to Cape Breton. So that's a nice ratio there, 5 goals in 8 matches.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know one of his goals was a long-distance free kick. That was just a screamer. So yeah, some former Cavalry players really showing their quality at the post-secondary level. Last player we can mention on the men's side with the deep Calgary connection is F.A. Udolu Joshua from the University of Calgary Dinos. He has scored 5 goals this season, which is tied with Peepgrass for 21st place.
One more thing I ran across and I thought was kind of interesting is when I was looking at the goal scoring leaders, I started to notice there were a bunch of players for the Saskatchewan Huskies that have Calgary connections that were, in the scoring race. And I did a little bit of math, and it would appear that most of the goal scorers for the Huskies are from the Calgary area.
Yeah, we know that the Huskies have a lot of Calgarians on their roster, and it's quite apparent that those players have really contributed to that team's offensive output. So Isabelle Lachance, Danielle Lehman, Cheyenne Lehman, they've all scored 4 goals each. And then Alyssa Danone has 3. And then Sophia Piast, who's a first-year player, she has scored 1. So 17 of 26 goals for the Huskies this year have come from Calgarians.
Yeah, cool stat.
Yeah, thanks for including that.
So as we said in U Sports Action, there isn't too much going on, but just the one match. But when it comes to ACAC, SAIT Trojans are playing one match over the Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, this is on Sunday, and it is at SAIT. They'll be hosting the Red Deer Kings and Queens. The women's game will kick off at noon, and the men's game will follow immediately after at 2:15 p.m.
I'm Shamit Shom. This is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, we have a couple more things we want to talk about before we finished off this episode. I noticed this a couple days ago. Some of the Calgary Blizzard social media channels were talking about this, but the Blizzard picked up another national title last weekend, and not one that at least was on my radar screen.
No, and mine either, but great that we can mention this. The Blizzard over 30 women's team won the Masters Nationals Championship in Winnipeg this past weekend, beating the Halifax Hotspurs 2-0 in the final.
Yeah, so congrats to the Blizzard. I was able to find a copy of the roster. There are a couple names on here that are a bit familiar to us, I think.
Definitely one, that being Yvonne Northover, who is, I believe, related to Dean, who played for Cavalry in the inaugural season. Yeah,
and I believe she was with the Blizzard League One Alberta club when they were playing in the Interprovincial Championships. So anyway, congrats to the Blizzard. I don't know if you noticed this in the script there that we put together, Scott, but I think I might have found the deepest cut in the history of our 140 episodes of the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Yeah. I want to let you introduce this one. I don't want to take credit for it.
So while I was looking at the women's roster on the Canada Soccer website, I also saw the men's roster. The men's winner was a team out of Saskatoon called YXEFC. So, they use their airport code there too. Who'd have ever thought? But when I was glancing through that list, I noticed a name on there, and my eyes did not deceive me. Dwayne Garreau was on that roster. And I realize, again, very deep cut. But Dwayne Garreau grew up in Prince Albert, and he played for the University of Saskatchewan Huskies. And way back in 2003, he played pro soccer for the Calgary Storm. He would have been one of Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s teammates back on that 2003 team. I remember him more because, I'm a U of S grad myself, and certainly there weren't too many Saskatchewan-based players that were playing pro soccer at the time. So that was sort of the reason that he stuck out in my mind. But yeah, here he is 22 years later winning a national championship.
Yeah, pretty cool. I wonder how old he would be if he was playing professionally 20 years ago. Even if he was young at the time, that would probably put him late 30s, early 40s.
I would presume he has to be 40 years old. Yeah.
But yeah, that 2003 season was a tough one for the Calgary Storm. It was the last year before the team folded and later was resurrected as the Calgary Mustangs. We've talked about that team, Jason. We've had on Mike Van Dale, who was the chairman / financier. We've also talked to Tommy Wheeldon Sr., who was the head coach of that team in 2003. So if anyone interested listening to this episode wants to dig through our archives, they could learn more about that team. Although I don't think we mentioned Dwayne Garreau when we had those guys on.
No, and he wasn't a player that probably would have particularly stood out on that club. I remember him playing, but just something I noticed that made me smile when I saw it, and I knew we had to include it today.
Well, you've got a good memory. So, Jason, last thing we will mention this episode, Canada Soccer announced its 21-player roster for the FIFA U17 Women's World Cup, which is happening in Morocco this year. This month, really. Geez, just a week from now, I guess. October 17th until November 8th in Rabat. And there's one Calgarian on the team.
Yeah, midfielder Daniela Ferreira Estrada, who is currently playing for the Vancouver Rise Academy out in Vancouver. Former Rangers player. She made this roster, so kudos to her.
Yeah, and she is already committed to her post-secondary. She's going to play for Arizona State in 2027.
Yeah, so I guess that gives us a bit of reason to pay attention to those matches. I see they play Nigeria, Samoa, and France. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that and see how it goes. But it's always nice to have someone from Calgary to sort of make you want to pay attention to some of these youth national tournaments. Yeah, so it's good stuff.
Absolutely. And yeah, just as you mentioned, they'll be playing Nigeria on October 19th, which is a Sunday, Samoa on Wednesday, October 22nd, and then France on October 25th, which is a Saturday. And the top two teams in that group will advance to the round of 16.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there to buy Scott's book. It's all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary, and it's called Here Come the Cavalry. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media such as Twitter, Instagram, or Blue Sky, where our username is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.